Why is it that two people can look at the exact same piece of evidence and come to two completely opposite conclusions? Why do we cling to ideas even when they are proven wrong? We like to think of our minds as logical courtrooms, where we weigh evidence and find the truth. But science tells a different story. Your brain isn't a truth-seeking missile. It's a survival-seeking machine. To your brain, being right is far less important than being safe and accepted. We live inside an invisible architecture of beliefs that filters every sight, sound, and fact we encounter. Today, we are tearing down the walls of that architecture. We are exploring the 10 psychological and neurological pillars that explain why we believe what we believe, and why the truth is often the last thing we care about. The biology of belief. To understand belief, we have to look at the brain's hardware. Point 1 is the neurological shield. When you encounter information that contradicts a deeply held belief, whether it's about politics, religion, or your own self-worth, your brain doesn't process it with the rational prefrontal cortex. Instead, it activates the amygdala, the same part of the brain responsible for the fight or flight response. Your brain perceives a wrong opinion as a physical threat, like a predator in the bushes. This is why arguments online become so heated. You aren't just debating an idea. Your nervous system is reacting as if you are being hunted. When the amygdala is active, logic is literally offline. You cannot reason someone out of a position they didn't reason themselves into. Social identity theory. Why is the brain so defensive? Point 2 is tribal belonging. For most of human history, being cast out of your tribe meant certain death. Evolution, therefore, prioritized social conformity over objective truth. If your tribe believes a certain narrative and you realize that narrative is false, you face a terrifying choice. Do you speak the truth and risk being exiled? Or do you ignore the truth and stay safe in the group? Most people, most of the time, will choose the group. We don't adopt beliefs because they are true. We adopt them because they provide us with a community. In the modern world, changing your mind isn't just a mental shift. It's a social suicide mission. The narrative fallacy. The human brain is a meaning-making machine. Point 3 is our obsession with stories over statistics. We cannot handle randomness. If something bad happens, we need a why. We need a villain, a hero, and a sequence of events that makes sense. This is why conspiracy theories are so seductive. They take a chaotic, complicated world and turn it into a simple story of us versus them. Even a scary story is more comforting to the brain than the idea that nobody is in control. We would rather believe in a dark, secret organization than admit that the universe is often random and indifferent to our lives. Our beliefs are the scripts we write to make the chaos feel like a movie. Cognitive ease and the illusory truth effect. Have you ever wondered why propaganda works? Point 4 is cognitive ease. Your brain is an energy saver. Processing new, complex information is expensive in terms of calories and effort. Familiar information, however, is cheap. The illusory truth effect states that if you hear a lie repeated often enough, your brain begins to mistake familiarity for truth. This is why slogans and repetitive news cycles are so effective. The brain thinks, I've heard this before, so it must be right. We don't believe things because they are logical. We believe them because they are easy to process. Truth requires work. Lies just require repetition. The backfire effect. You might think that if you just show someone the facts, they will change their mind. But point 5 is the backfire effect. In several famous studies, researchers showed people evidence that directly contradicted their political beliefs. Instead of changing their minds, the subjects actually became more convinced of their original, incorrect position. This happens because the brain treats the correcting information as an attack. It creates counterarguments to protect the ego. The more you try to prove someone wrong, the more you cement their belief. To change a mind, you don't use a hammer, you have to use a bridge. Anchoring and first impressions. The first piece of information you hear about a topic creates the anchor for everything that follows. Point 6 is the primacy of belief. Once an anchor is set, every subsequent piece of information is judged in relation to it. If the first thing you hear about a person is that they are untrustworthy, your brain will look for evidence of lies in everything they say, even if they are being perfectly honest. We are not objective observers. We are confirmation bias machines. We don't see the world as it is. We see the world as we first encountered it. Breaking an anchor requires a massive psychological reset that most people never go through. The Dunning-Kruger effect of belief. Point 7 is a paradox. The less we know, the more certain we are. The Dunning-Kruger effect explains that people with a tiny amount of knowledge in a subject often have the highest confidence in their beliefs. They don't know enough to see the complexity, so their worldview feels simple and obvious. True experts, on the other hand, are often filled with doubt because they see the thousands of variables involved. This is why the loudest voices in any debate are often the least informed. Certainty is not a sign of truth. It is often a sign of a lack of information. A healthy mind is one that is comfortable with maybe. The role of moral foundations. Why do people have such different beliefs about right and wrong? Psychologist Jonathan Haidt suggests that we have different moral foundations. Point 8 is the evolutionary value system. Some people's brains are highly sensitive to harm and fairness. Others are more sensitive to authority, loyalty, and sanctity. These are like taste buds for the soul. You cannot convince a sanctity-focused person to change their mind using a fairness-focused argument. They are literally speaking different moral languages. Our beliefs are often just the intellectual excuses we make for our underlying biological temperaments. Motivation and desirability bias. We believe what we want to be true. Point 9 is desirability bias. If a study says that coffee is good for you, and you love coffee, you will accept that study without question. If a study says coffee is bad for you, you will suddenly become a skeptic and look for flaws in the researcher's methodology. We apply high scrutiny to things we don't like and low scrutiny to things we do. This is called motivated reasoning. We are not like scientists. We are like lawyers defending a client. The client is our ego, and our job is to win the case, not to find the truth. The belief-dependent reality. The final and most mind-bending point is that belief actually changes your perception. This is not just metaphorical, it is biological. In brain scans, researchers have seen that our expectations actually change how the visual cortex processes light. If you firmly believe a person is dangerous, your brain will actually highlight their movements as aggressive, even if they are neutral. We hallucinate a world that confirms our beliefs. This is the top-down processing of the brain. We don't believe what we see what we already believe. Scientific humility and Steel Manning. So, how do we escape this architecture? The answer is intellectual humility. It starts with the realization that your brain is lying to you every single day. To find the truth, you have to practice Steel Manning, the act of building the strongest possible version of your opponent's argument. You have to actively seek out information that makes you uncomfortable. You have to value truth more than you value belonging. This is the hardest work a human can do because it goes against 200,000 years of evolution. But it is the only way to be truly free. Your beliefs are not you. They are just a map you use to navigate the world. But the map is not the territory. If the map says there is a bridge, but you see a river, don't blame the river. Update the map. The most powerful people in the world are not those who are certain, but those who are adaptable. Those who can look at the evidence and say, I was wrong, and I am glad I know better now. Enlightenment is not about finding the perfect belief. It's about the endless process of tearing down your old walls and building something a little closer to the light. The question is, are you brave enough to be wrong?